We are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world. The Bahama. A tribute to Buddha.
Buddha.
You know the double slit experiment. You have heard the story 1,000 times. Shoot a particle through a barrier and it acts like a wave, existing in a state of infinite potential, a smear of pure probability. But the moment you place an observer in the room, the moment you look, that wave collapses. The infinite possibilities snap into a single, localized physical reality, a concrete fact. It is the most mind-bending discovery in the history of quantum physics, proving that reality itself shifts based on whether or not it is being watched. But here's the massive blind spot that keeps the vast majority of people trapped in a life they do not want. You only think about this experiment in terms of subatomic particles. You imagine photons and electrons in a laboratory, but you haven't applied it to the 16 hours you spend awake every single day. You haven't realized that you are the laboratory, and your life is the particle. Right now, I want to introduce you to a concept that will fundamentally shatter how you view your morning. I call it temporal superposition. When you go to sleep tonight, your tomorrow does not exist as a fixed reality. Tomorrow is not a script that has already been written. Instead, your tomorrow is exactly like that unobserved particle. It is a quantum wave function. It exists purely as a cloud of probability. Within that cloud is the version of tomorrow, where you finally break your negative cycles. But also within that cloud is the version where you suffer through the exact same stress and mundane routine you live today. Every possible branch of reality exists simultaneously in that state of temporal superposition while you sleep. So, what forces that infinite cloud to collapse into the singular reality you actually end up living? What is the observer that forces the wave into a particle? It is not your eyes opening. It is the very first thought you hold when you wake up. Your conscious expectation is the observer. The second your mind anticipates how your day will go, you observe the wave. You force the collapse. If your first thought is dread about your job or stress about your bank account, you instantly collapse your temporal superposition into a reality that mirrors that exact frequency. You trap yourself in yesterday's limitations before you even place your feet on the floor. But what if you could learn to control the observer? What if you could consciously direct the collapse of your own timeline? In this masterclass, we are going to dismantle the biological hardware that is this collapse. I am going to show you exactly how your neural pathways dictate your reality, how to break the ego's feedback loop, and how to utilize radical neutrality to permanently withdraw your observation from the realities you no longer wish to inhabit. By the end of this video, you will possess the reality architecture protocol, an actionable framework to command your timeline into existence. Do not click away. Pay very close attention, because what you learn in the next 27 minutes will transform you from a passive participant trapped in a rigid world into the sovereign architect of an infinite one. Let's talk about the observer. When physicists discuss the observer effect, people picture eyes watching a screen. They think vision anchors reality. But the human observer does not use eyes to collapse the wave function of tomorrow. The eyes are just passive lenses feeding raw data into a processor. Your true observing mechanism, the mechanism that actually shapes the quantum field, is your neural expectation. Expectation is the gravitational pull of your consciousness. It is a highly specific electrical frequency generated by your brain before an event even happens. Before the event occurs, you are already broadcasting a frequency of what you assume it will be. If you expect a hostile interaction, you broadcast the frequency of hostility. The quantum field has no choice but to collapse the wave of probability into the exact physical shape of your assumption. How does this abstract concept become a tangible event? Enter the reticular activating system. If the quantum field is the software of the universe, your RAS is the biological hardware running the code. Located at the base of your brainstem, the RS is a bundle of nerves, acting as the gatekeeper of reality. Every single second, billions of bits of data, and thousands of parallel probabilities around you. If you processed it all, your brain would short-circuit, so your RS does it. It only allows through the exact data that matches your predetermined frequency. It literally deletes the rest of reality from your perception. If you operate on a frequency of lack, your RS actively blinds you to the opportunities and synchronicities sitting right in front of your face. The RS doesn't just passively filter, it actively forces the quantum collapse to match your internal state. It is a heat-seeking missile for whatever you declare important. How do you declare it important? Through sustained emotional expectations. When you combine emotion with a clear neural expectation, you program the RS. Once programmed, it goes into the collapsed wave of your day and forces the environment to align with your internal architecture. If your architecture is built on anxiety, you'll grasp an infinite field of possibilities and meticulously selects the timeline where things go wrong, just to prove you right. It collapses the wave into a missed call or a lost client, because the biological hardware is designed to make your external reality perfectly mirror your internal frequency. This is where the game is won or lost. You are not a victim of a random universe. You are the victim of an untrained reticular activating system. You have allowed past traumas and unconscious habits to program your biological hardware. You collapse waves of probability into realities of struggle, simply because that is the frequency your RAS is tuned to. But the moment you reprogram this gatekeeper, the moment you take conscious control of your neural expectations, you stop reacting to the world and start generating it. You stop surviving your timeline and start architecting it. To do that, we must address the most dangerous trap in the human mind. A psychological snare so subtle, most people never realize they are caught in it. We have to break the ego's feedback loop. So why are the vast majority of people completely trapped in lives they desperately want to change? Why do you wake up every day, determined to create a new reality, only to find yourself repeating the exact same patterns, having the exact same arguments, and feeling the exact same stress? You are caught in what I call the ego's feedback loop. This is the ultimate glitch in human consciousness, and until you learn how to bypass it, you will remain a prisoner of your own past. Let me break down the exact anatomy of this trap. It works in a continuous, inescapable cycle. Step 1. You observe a problem in your current environment. Let's call this fact A. You look at your bank account and see a low balance. You look at your current job and feel miserable. Fact A is simply a collapsed wave function. It is nothing more than the physical residue of your past expectations. But the moment you focus your attention on fact A, you trigger step 2, the internal reaction. Your ego looks at fact A and immediately generates a highly charged emotion: fear, frustration, despair. This emotional reaction instantly becomes your new neural expectation. It forms a dense, powerful cloud of probability for your future. Let's call this probability B. Because you are staring at a negative fact, you are now broadcasting a negative frequency into the quantum field, and this leads directly into step 3, the new collapse. Because your biological hardware is now programmed with probability B, you walk into the infinite potential of your tomorrow and actively force the wave function to collapse right back into fact A. The cycle completes itself. Fact A triggers probability B, which collapses back into fact A. Observation creates expectation. Expectation creates reality, and reality reinforces the observation. It is a flawless, self-sustaining cage. You live the same day 10,000 times and call it a life. Why does your own mind do this to you? You must understand that the ego is strictly a survival mechanism. The ego does not care if you are happy, fulfilled, or financially free. The ego only cares that your environment is predictable. To your primitive survival brain, a known hell is fundamentally safer than an unknown heaven. The ego uses the feedback loop to keep you anchored to a familiar timeline, even if that timeline is actively destroying you. It uses the physical evidence of your senses to justify the limitations of your future. It whispers to you to just look at the facts. And by forcing you to look at the facts, it forces you to continuously recreate them. Most people try to escape this loop through sheer willpower. They try to slap positive thinking over a deeply rooted neural expectation of failure. But trying to force a positive thought when your nervous system is terrified creates massive internal friction. Your hardware recognizes the underlying panic, not the superficial affirmation, and it collapses your reality based on the panic. Willpower is a localized, low-level tool. You cannot fight the ego's feedback loop on its own terms. To shatter this loop, you must do something radically counterintuitive. You must stop fighting fact A, and you must completely withdraw your observation from it. You have to remove the gravitational pull of your attention. The cure for the ego's trap is not forced positivity. The cure is a high vibration withdrawal. It is a state of absolute, impenetrable non-reaction. In the next phase of this framework, we are going to solve the biggest debate in reality creation. I am going to teach you the critical difference between low vibration apathy and the ultimate superpower of the conscious architect, radical neutrality. If you want to stop the wave function of your past from infecting your tomorrow, you cannot afford to miss this next step. We have reached the most misunderstood concept in this entire community. When you realize that your emotional reaction is the glue binding you to a negative reality, the logical step is to detach. But this is exactly where thousands of people fail. They confuse conscious detachment with apathy. Let me be very clear. Apathy is not detachment. Apathy is a low vibration state of defeat. It is a biological surrender. When you are apathetic, you are not withdrawing your observation. You are observing your own helplessness. You are telling your reticular activating system that you have given up because the external world is more powerful than your internal frequency. When you broadcast apathy, the quantum field collapses a wave of stagnation, depression, and continued victimhood right back onto your timeline. We are not aiming for apathy. We are deploying radical neutrality. Radical neutrality is a high vibration withdrawal of observation. It is the absolute, unshakable knowing that the current physical facts do not matter because they are already dead. They are just the lingering echoes of your past expectations. When a negative event occurs, when the facts of your current situation scream for your attention, the radically neutral observer looks at them and feels absolutely nothing. No anger, no fear, no frustration. You refuse to give the event the electrical charge of your emotion. Think back to the double slit experiment. If the wave only collapses into a physical particle when it is observed, what happens when you intentionally stop observing it? It reverts back into a wave. It returns to a state of pure, unformed potential. This is the superpower of radical neutrality. By refusing to react to a negative reality, you starve that reality of the conscious energy it needs to sustain itself in the physical world. You literally stop the wave function of your problem from collapsing into your tomorrow. You unanchor yourself from the timeline of struggle, but neutrality is only half the equation. Radical neutrality clears the canvas. It resets the quantum field, but an empty canvas does not paint itself. Once you have stopped the negative collapse, you must immediately initiate a new one. You must issue the command that dictates exactly which branch of reality your consciousness will step into next. To do that, we must unlock the most potent verbal frequency known to human biology. In the next 3 minutes, we are going to decode the architecture of the Logos, and I will show you why 2 simple words are the ultimate tool of the quantum observer. Radical neutrality has cleared the board. You have stopped feeding the old reality. Now you must command the new one. In ancient philosophy, there is a profound concept known as the Logos, the word. It is the idea that spoken frequency is the original, fundamental organizing force of the universe. Sound is not just air vibrating in a room. It is geometric architecture. When you speak, you are literally vibrating the invisible quantum field into dense physical form. But out of all the infinite frequencies you can broadcast, there is one specific command that overrides every single biological and quantum law. 2 words that act as the master password to your entire reality. I am. I am is not a positive affirmation. Affirmations are what you say when you are hoping to convince yourself of something you do not actually believe. I am is a declaration of exact quantum coordinates. When you say I am, you are instantly locking your consciousness into a specific timeline. Every single time those 2 words leave your mouth, your reticular activating system snaps to absolute attention. The quantum field stops shifting, and it instantly begins collapsing the wave function around whatever word directly follows that command. If you say I am tired, you are not merely describing your current physical state. You are issuing a command to your biology.
Yep. For my affirmations in my crib. And I said, I am that I am strong, I am wise, I am true, I am.
To downregulate your cellular energy, you are actively choosing the timeline of exhaustion. If you say, I am stuck, you are in invisible walls in front of your own progress. This is precisely why most people destroy their own timeline without even realizing.
So,
and Bruce Lee. Shout out to Bruce Lee. What's Bruce Lee's favorite drink? Water. Get it? Y'all get it. But either way, Bruce Lee said, don't talk down on yourself even if you're joking. Water.
add to perspective of me saying I'm strong, I am wise, I am true, I'm safe, secure, protected. Is jumping to a timeline where I'm safe, secure, protected, strong, wise, and true, and on God mode, God
mode.
status.
Pause.
Straight up. So the subconscious is going through different timelines where I am a God, where I am strong, I am wise, I am true, I am safe. Going through them timelines, picking out the right one, and I'm living in that energy. And especially on God mode, this is why the motherfucking fire didn't take my apartment.
They use the most powerful creative code in the entire universe to describe the very limitations they are desperately trying to escape. They use I am as a passive mirror to reflect their current negative facts, instead of using it as a precision laser to cut into a brand new probability. To become the sovereign architect of your life, you must completely weaponize the Logos. You must treat I am as a strict, non-negotiable directive. Whatever word you place after I am must be the exact reality you intend to occupy in this very second. You do not say, I am going to be wealthy, because that places the reality in an uncollapsed, distant future wave function. It keeps you forever waiting. You state, I am wealth. You do not say, I am trying to heal. You state, I am absolute vitality. When you align the spoken Logos with the biological hardware of your race, you give the universe no choice but to organize around your vocalized frequency. But here is where this framework gets incredibly deep and entirely paradigm shifting. What happens when this observer, the conscious I am within you, faces the ultimate final collapse? What happens when a timeline completely terminates? In the next phase of this training, we are going completely off the map. We are going to explore quantum continuity and the advanced theory of surviving death branches. I am going to explain how your conscious expectation does not just shape your daily routine. It is the literal anchor that keeps your consciousness alive, jumping across parallel realities when catastrophe strikes. This concept will permanently change how you view your own existence and your own mortality. Do not blink. Let's dive into the void. We have moved beyond your daily routine and into the infinite nature of consciousness itself. If the observer dictates reality, what happens when the physical body encounters an event that should terminate it? What happens when you face a timeline where your probability of survival drops to zero? Mainstream science calls this the end, but quantum mechanics suggests something infinitely more profound. We call it quantum continuity, or the advanced theory of surviving death branches. Think about a moment in your life where you narrowly escaped a fatal accident. A car swerved at the absolute last microsecond. You walked away unharmed, totally baffled by your own luck. You call it a miracle. But what if it was not luck? What if, in one parallel branch of reality, the impact actually happened? In that specific timeline, your physical form was destroyed, and that wave function collapsed into a hard termination. But the observer, the fundamental command of your consciousness, is not bound by physical matter. It cannot observe its own non-existence. Because your consciousness continue to observe in order to exist, it seamlessly transfers its awareness to the nearest parallel branch of reality, where your survival remains a valid probability. In this new branch, the car swerved. You survived. Your consciousness anchored itself to the timeline of continuity. You do not even realize you jumped timelines. You simply carry on, believing you had a dangerously close call, completely unaware that a parallel version of your reality just permanently blinked out of existence. This is the staggering power of the eternal observer. Expectation is your anchor. Your underlying assumption of continued existence is the literal mechanism that forces the quantum field to endlessly generate timelines where you are still breathing. But this immense power comes with a terrifying consequence. If you are constantly jumping timelines just to survive, what kind of timeline are you anchoring yourself into? Are you jumping into branches of absolute vitality and wealth, or are you just surviving in branches of endless low-level suffering? If you do not consciously command your timeline, your survival instinct will simply anchor you to the nearest available reality, regardless of how miserable that reality might be. You might survive the crash, but you wake up in a timeline where you are paralyzed by anxiety, fear, and toxic loops. You are technically alive, but you are not sovereign. You are drifting through the quantum debris of your own unconscious expectations, completely trapped. This realization changes absolutely everything. You are not just trying to have a productive morning. You are actively navigating an infinite multiverse of life and death branches every single second. You must stop leaving your quantum continuity to blind chance. You must learn how to intentionally lock your consciousness onto the highest possible branch of reality before the collapse even occurs. This brings us to the ultimate phase of our framework. Now that you understand the mechanics of the observer and the eternal nature of your consciousness, it is time to build. I am about to hand you the reality architecture protocol. I will give you the 0-point pivot, a precise mental technique to instantly switch timelines, and the Logos audit to permanently bulletproof your new reality. The most important 10 minutes of your entire life start right now. Do not move.
Do not move.
We have stripped away the illusions. You now know exactly how the biological hardware of your brain and the quantum mechanics of the universe operate in absolute synchronization. Theory is over. It is time for application. Welcome to the Reality Architecture Protocol. If you are tired of merely surviving your timelines and you are ready to start commanding them, this is your blueprint. We begin with advanced reality anchoring. When a crisis hits, when a massive bill arrives, or a relationship suddenly shatters, your biological hardware is going to scream at you to look at the problem. Your reticular activating system violently force you back into the ego's feedback loop. This is the exact microsecond where 99% of people fail. They let the external fact dictate their internal frequency, and they instantly collapse a brand new wave of suffering. To break this entirely, you must master what I call the 0-point pivot. The 0-point pivot is a highly advanced 3-minute mental protocol designed to forcefully hijack your biological hardware and completely withdraw your observation from a problematic fact. Here is exactly how you execute it. Step 1. Hard stop. The very second you get a spike of a negative event, you freeze. You do not speak. You do not act. You do not text anyone. You do not try to solve the problem. Any physical action taken from a state of panic simply anchors you deeper into the timeline of that panic. Step 2. The vacuum. For exactly 60 seconds, you enter radical neutrality. You look directly at the problem and consciously drain all emotional electricity from your physical body. You declare to your nervous system that this fact is already dead. It is nothing more than the expired physical residue of a past expectation. You do not fight it. You simply refuse it. You create absolute internal vacuum. Step 3. The pivot. Once the vacuum is established, you do not just hope for a better outcome. You actively place your conscious observation onto a preferred potential. You vividly construct the exact reality you demand to inhabit, and you flood your nervous system with the intense emotional frequency of total sovereignty and relief. You hold this new, elevated frequency for 2 unbroken minutes. By doing this, you are manually overriding your reticular activating system. You are starving the negative wave function of its observer, forcing the problem to dissolve back into pure unformed probability, while simultaneously collapsing a brand new wave of extreme advantage. You execute this every single time the external world tries to dictate your internal state. You pivot, and you anchor. But a new anchor is utterly useless if you immediately destroy it the second you open your mouth. In the next phase of this protocol, we are going to stress test your entire simulation. I am going to issue you the Logos Audit, a 24-hour brutal challenge that will permanently expose the exact words you are using to sabotage your own existence. This will be the hardest thing you have ever done, but it is the final lock on the door to your sovereignty. Listen closely. You have mastered the 0-point pivot. You know exactly how to internally shift your timeline, but all of that internal architecture instantly shatters the very second you speak a curse word. We are now initiating the Logos Audit. For the next 24 hours, you are going to treat every single syllable that leaves your mouth as an absolute, non-negotiable quantum command. This is not a simple communication exercise. This is a brutal stress test of your reality simulation. Here is the unbreakable rule. If a sentence does not perfectly describe the exact reality you demand to inhabit, it cannot be spoken. If someone asks how your day is going, you do not trauma dump. You do not complain about the economy, your exhausting boss, or your physical fatigue. The moment you vocalize a complaint, your biological hardware locks onto that frequency, and you violently collapse a wave of misery right back onto your current timeline. For the next 24 hours, you only speak creation. If you cannot speak creation, you remain completely silent. This audit will ruthlessly expose how deeply addicted your ego is to broadcasting low-frequency victimhood.
Right. So when someone asks you how your day, they be like, shit. You know what I'm saying? Out of here to the country or get ready to, shoot. Like they be like, what you up to? Shit. I'm in the process of building. You to build a generation. What you been up to? What you doing? How you been? Shit, doing cool, chilling, feeling good. But your nervous system got to be intact. Because you can say all that and still be like, man, I'm fucked up on the inside. So mind, body, and spirit must be in line. At the same time, be honest. You used to be like, shit, how you been? Shit, just trying to live. Now it's like, shit, building for the future.
It will feel restrictive. It will feel deeply uncomfortable. Good.
Or you could be like, shit, chilling with my future self on the beach.
That discomfort is the exact feeling of the ego's feedback loop slowly starving to death. Once you survive this audit, you will never speak the same way again. As you step out of this video and execute this protocol, I need you to internalize one final, absolute truth. For your entire life, you have been lied to about the fundamental nature of your existence. You have been heavily conditioned to believe that you are a tiny, fragile creature living inside of a massive, dangerous world. You believe the universe happens to you. You believe you must react, survive, and desperately adapt to your physical environment. That is the ultimate illusion of the human condition. You are not living in a world. You are projecting one. The physical reality surrounding you right this second. The room you are sitting in. The screen you are watching. The bank account you are stressed about. It is all just a holographic mirror. It is merely the delayed physical reflection of your own past neural expectations. You are the origin point. You are the eternal conscious observer forcing the infinite, unformed wave of probability into dense physical stimulation when you are the sovereign consciousness writing the code. Take control of your reticular activating system. Weaponize the logos. Master the zero-point pivot. The infinite multiverse is holding its breath, waiting for your command. Step into the void, and frequency resonates with your internal architecture. If you are ready to permanently collapse the wave of your old life and step into absolute sovereignty, you must solidify that command right now. Liking this video and subscribing to this channel, not just a meaningless algorithmic metric, it is a deliberate physical act at the present moment. It is a conscious declaration to your own biological hardware that you are officially.
And then he get off until, like, if you want to get some more information, you got to go to my Patreon. So all the real truth is behind the paywall. But like real shit, you say life ain't about adapting, man, but like that's the physical part. We got to adapt because we still got to live in this physical world too while we do the inner work and shadow work. And like that's the problem with some of these spiritual videos. The problem is they don't want you to look at reality. Yes, go on the inside and try to motherfucking to do the inner work and shadow work and try to manifest your future. But like at the same time, don't forget you still got to deal with the physical world. But here's the problem. The problem is not letting this life get to you. That fuck up your nervous system for you to do the work and shadow work so you can have your manifestation that you need. So it's like day to day, we got to deal with this shit on a physical level. The goal is to not let it get to you. But eventually, some days are stressful. People are irritating and frustrating. The goal is to probably, keep a smile on your face, walk away from the area. But this is also programming, like talk about like at the beginning, like as soon as you wake up, like before your foot even hit the floor, try to program your mind, body, and spirit to have a great fucking day. And then during the day, with your observer mind, you can be like, all right, I know that's going to trigger me. So I'm going to walk this route. And if anything happened on this route, I'm already cool. So I'm going to just be like, okay, that always happens. Fuck these gang stalkers. Fuck the police. Fuck this long ass line that I'm waiting in. You know what I'm saying? Now it's just going to go through the day. Try to go through the day and just not ignore it, but catalog all the bullshit. But also catalog your emotions when you see it. It's kind of observer mode, God mode, monitoring mode, but you're monitoring self and you're checking your emotions and making sure everything intact. Now, but at the same time, that's also mentally stressful because you're monitoring every emotion, make sure you don't fucking flip out. So like the goal is just try to be normal, but like at the same time, when these big situations happen or the irritation happens, just catalog it, blow through it, blow it off, spit a rhyme about it. You know what I'm saying? But grab your truth and what you can. Use whatever works. So this is your man, sorry. This is Temporal Thursdays.